Okay, I would like to know if I will have to pay taxes, and what about my business? Will it have to pay taxes, or will I'm not too sure about what the results of the treaty would be.
My question regarding the SXTA treaty is whether or not the members of the treaty would have taxable income, or would the taxable income be applicable to non-members only?
I'm just wondering, I was told before that we would have to pay taxes if the treaty went through, and I'm just wondering if that would be true or not true.
Hi, my name is Joy Hall. I'm from Scoquel First Nations, and my question is, will I have to pay taxes? And will I have to pay taxes for my business that is on reserve?
All right, the question about taxes is a complex question. We're actually in negotiations about that, and I'm hoping that in the next few years we'll come away with a very clear answer. I don't want people to become afraid of taxation. But at the same time, we shouldn't be overburdening our own people who've been living under poverty for so many years. There are several different kinds of tax in Canada today. We pay income tax, for example, if we're living off reserve and we're working for a company or a government. We pay tax at a grocery store when we buy goods and services. This is called GST or PST. We also pay property tax if we own land outside of the reserves. Any tax that's paid by anyone in Canada goes to support government services, particularly property tax that's paid to the municipalities. On reserve, currently, Aboriginal people don't pay tax because the federal government, in fact, owns the land, and they do not pay property tax. Currently, if you're working on a reserve or in an area that's considered federal property, Status Indians do not pay income tax. As for consumer tax, like things like car tax, automobile tax, there's simply a section of the Indian Act that was put into the Indian Act to prevent execution or the seizure of goods on reserve as a way to protect Native people. Once we get out of the Indian Act, those sections will no longer apply. Income tax? Will income tax have to be paid in a post-treaty environment? That's a question that's yet to be answered, and it's possible that you will have to pay income tax. The difference will be that those taxes will be diverted to your own community for the benefit of programs and services provided to people. In other words, a redistribution of wealth. In a post-treaty environment, the land itself will no longer belong to the federal government as it does now. It will belong to the tribe, to the Stalo Nation, to the Stalo people. So the question of tax begins to arise as we take on the ownership of our own land. Will we have to pay tax to the provincial government, for example? These are questions that have yet to be finalized. What we're hoping to do is to maintain this tax exemption, however. What's complicating this whole process is that many of the communities are entering into their own tax regime. So it's not an easy yes or no. As for property tax, the answer is a little bit complicated, and quite frankly, the answer isn't known yet because we haven't negotiated that part of the treaty. But I can tell you that this is the thinking so far. The first thing is that land ownership on a reserve, whatever land you may have, will continue. If you own a piece of property pursuant to a certificate of possession, that will not change in a post-treaty environment. Will you have to pay property tax on it? It depends on whether or not the land itself will be registered as treaty settlement lands with the provincial government under the current land tenure system. If, however, we create our own land tenure system with a registry system for the Stalo people, then we can, in fact, leave the individuals in a position where they need not pay tax. In other words, they won't have to pay tax on the land. Goods and services tax. Right now, if you buy gasoline, for example, or an automobile, that those provincial sales taxes can be avoided if you purchase those goods on a reserve. In a post-treaty environment, it's entirely possible that those taxes will have to be paid. Under current taxation agreements, for example, some of the communities already have taxation agreements with the federal government where half of that income is reverted back to the communities. But we're still in an area that's under negotiations, and I'm hoping to hear from you about how you view the tax situation. I know that taxation is going to be a burden for those who can't afford it. I know that we're getting into an area that concerns individuals regarding the tax situation. And as we get closer to the end of our negotiations, I'm hoping that many of you will voice your concern. Taxation is a way that government pays for services. Some of us are in a position where we can afford to pay tax. Many cannot. And this is why we need to hear from you. This is why we need to develop a position that hopefully will not create problems, but solve them. We can't forget, however, that under our agreement, we receive so many other benefits. But I can understand why people are concerned, why the Stalo people are worried about this issue. As we get closer to the end of negotiations, I'm hoping to hear from you. Get your input in. And I know that that will be taken into consideration when final negotiations take place.